सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 तत्प्रत्ययाः किन्नु विहाय सन्तम् हृद्येशचिन्तारहितो हृदाख्यः कथं स्मरामस्तममेयमेकम् तस्य स्मृतिस्तत्र दृढैव निष्ठा. This we have seen in detail. Talking about the Sat in the form of a prayer. This is a Mangala Charanam, Vastu Nirupanam. So to show how the Vastu is not an object, it is in fact the truth of the I, the subject. And if you want to pray, if you want to use the Vastu, the truth of oneself, as a form of prayer, it is just Sadbhavanam. It is more in the form of being. Knowing is being, being is knowing, and we are talking about a knowing being in the form of Satchidananda. And this Sat alone prevails. Nothing else is there, and nothing at all matters, because abiding in this Sat, what happens when you abide in the Sat? That itself is a form of aradhana, worship. The best service one can do to Sat is to abide in it as the truth of oneself. And that is how it is, it is worshipful. It becomes an act of worship. This is the first Mangala Charanam. Very, very beautiful. And then we have the next Mangala Charanam, which looks a little more traditional. It looks like it's an invocation to Lord Shiva. Why? Because the word is Mrityunjaya. Mrityunjaya, which is the one who is the Lord who has gained victory over death. And that is, of course, becomes very, what's the word for it? Attractive for everybody else. Why? Because everybody wants to overcome death. Everybody wants to overcome death. That's why it is very attractive. That Lord, in the form of Shiva, in the form of the one who defies death, the teacher of immortality, becomes extremely, what's the word for it? Attractive for all the mumukshus. So on the face of it, it looks like a Shiva Mahima Puja, a glory of Lord Shiva is being talked about. It looks like that. But really speaking, it is again just like the other one. It provides a very interesting twist and an innuendo in this prayer. So let us see what this says. Mrityunjayam. Mrityunjayam means the one who has Mrityum Jayati iti Mrityunjayaha tam. So the one who has gained, what is that called? Who has gained victory, who has overcome mortality. How does one overcome mortality? One overcomes mortality by seeing that one is not a mortal to begin with. That's the only way. And the Lord, who is completely aware of of himself being Satchidananda, there is not a whiff of ignorance here, and so the Lord knows I am not subject to death. And so this Mrityunjaya, Mrityubhiya, Mrityubhiya, Mrityubhihi. means the person who goes puk, 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 puk at the sight of death, at the sound of death. So the one who is very afraid of death. Mrityubhihi, the one who is afraid of death. Death here is called Mrityubhi. And this Mrityubhiya, by this Mrityubhi, the one who has Mrityubhaya, Mrityubhiya, Ashritana. So Mrityubhi is the fear of death, and Mrityubhiya, due to the fear of death, Ashritanam. And Ashritana means those who have taken recourse. Those who have taken recourse to who? Mrityunjaya. Why? Because of the fear of death. Because of the fear of death, those who have taken recourse to Mrityunjaya, and so this is the very interesting. So Mrityubhiya Ashritana, for those who have taken recourse to Lord Shiva. Why? Because they are afraid of death. And what does Lord Shiva do? Kill off the I notion. So here they came worried about being finite, suffering from a sense of finitude. And what did Lord Shiva do? Lord Shiva killed off the ahankara that was attached to everything finite, such as the body, mind, sense complex. So aham matihi. And here we have to say dehoham iti matihi. Pranoham iti matihi. Panchakoshoham iti matihi. So the mati means the thinking. The thinking, I'm as good as this body. I'm as good as this mind. I'm as good as the senses. I'm as good as whatever I see. I'm as good as all these things. So this is the problem. Because of this, one finds oneself in a tough spot because one embraces everything that is finite. And one identifies mistakenly with everything that is finite, and therefore there is samsara. Mrityubhi is samsara. One who has fear of death is a samsari. So Mrityubhaya is samsara. And for samsara, you need two things. In non-duality, there can be no samsara. So samsara means we are talking of two things. What are the two things? You and the object of fear. That is why the Brihadaranyakam Upanishad says, what does it say? Dvaitadhi bhayam bhavati. Fear is because of duality. When there is a prospect of something other than you being in the situation that you have to confront, when you have to confront something other than you, then what happens? There is bhaya. And this is what is the thing. There is great bhaya. And that is what is called samsara. The same thing is expressed also in the Taittiriya Upanishad. There it says, Udaram antaram kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. And elsewhere, knowing Brahman, abhayam pratishtham vindate. Athatasya saha bhayangato bhavati. The person gets established in abhaya. Abhaya means no fear. Bhaya, fear. And so the person gets established in oneself as free of fear, either because stage one is dedicated to Bhagavan, and one has done Sharanagati in Bhagavan, and that is what is being talked about here. There are two stages of fearlessness exposed, unfolded by the Taittiriya Upanishad, and this is echoed here in verse number 2. The first stage is Sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrendering to Bhagavan as a Bhakta, as a devotee. Trahi Mam, help me, save me, protect me, give me this, give me that, give me protection. And I'm afraid. And people are very, very afraid. And People just, sometimes that desperation of that fear drives people to pray for all kinds of things. And so all kinds of things which need not be prayed for, people pray because the fear is so much. But who are we to say they need not be prayed for? Because it is their freedom to pray, and they are praying for something because they are afraid. So they quickly get into the Bhakta mode, into the mode of the devotee and the object of devotion. Either Guru, God, whatever there is, Ishta Devata, one's Ishta Devata, and then that is where the supplication, the surrender is taking place. Okay, so then what? Then one feels protected, because after going to Bhagavan and lying your head down on the altar, there is a sense of great relief. There is this feeling, okay, I have given everything to you. Now it is your job to take care of it. And I'm not going to tell you to do your job. You do your job and take care of this. This is what, leads one to a relative absence of fear. Na bibheti kadachaneti Anandam brahmano vidvan na bibheti kadachaneti. Kadachana means at any time. Na bibheti. So this person who has done Sharanagati to Bhagavan is never afraid at any time. Never afraid at any time means what? And is not fearful at any time. Why? Because Bhagavan is by her side, by his side. There is that wonderful sense of comfort, protection. This is the phala of puja. This is the phala of meditation. This is the phala of worship and supplication. Very, very nice. So therefore, this is the first step to Advaita or non-duality. Then the second step, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the same mantra is repeated, but then one word is changed. Anandam brahmano vidvan na bibheti kutaschaneti. There it is kadachana in the first instance, which means at any given time. Kadachana. And here it is what? Kutaschana. Kutaschana means at nowhere, there is no source of fear. So how can you be afraid when all you confront is yourself alone? But what if I am afraid of myself? That also is not there, because the self that we are talking about is not the mind, is not the body, is not the senses. So that is not the self. And so therefore what? Na bibheti kutaschana. Na bibheti kadachana. So kutaschana means there is no source of fear. There is no source of terror. Oh, because Bhagavan gave a miracle and then said, don't fear, I am here. No. That is still the first one. The second one is there is no source of fear. You know why? Because there is only you. And that you is the truth of the Jagat, is the truth of the self, is the truth of Bhagavan. There is nothing other than you. So what is it that you are going to be afraid of? This is this Abhaya Pratishtha, this living in Abhaya is Jnani Lakshana. Lakshana means the characteristics of a Jnani. And so here first we see the samsari going as a bhakta. And there's lots of samsaris because it's in plural. So ashritanam. So for the people who have rushed to the Shivalinga, embraced the Shivalinga, and then supplicated themselves, prostrated themselves in front of the Shivalinga. Then what happened? Bhagavan gave a big surprise. What did Bhagavan do? Bhagavan, here they came not wanting to die, and Bhagavan himself turned, Lord Shiva turned into a killer. Oh no! How did Lord Shiva turn into a killer? Aham matihi mrityum upaiti purvam. Purvam doesn't mean before. Purvam means, first, here, before anything else. So aham matihi means aham dehaha, aham pranaha, aham manaha iti mati. So the ahankara that is misidentified with the body, with the mind, with the senses, that is the one that comes under the spell of Bhagavan's killing. That is what happens. And what else does Bhagavan kill? Bhagavan kills everything else that attaches, here we can use the word, attaches to the ahankara. Raga, dvesha, gone. Fear, gone. And then what? What else gone? Kama, krodha, everything gone. Everything gone. So, this being the situation, here is a wonderful irony that the person, the samsari, the one who felt struck by samsara and rushed over as a bhakta to Bhagavan, Bhagavan out of great grace killed off the ahankara and cut off the ties that bind. Cut off all the wrong dysfunctional ties. Starting with the body, starting with the mind, starting with people. So many dysfunctional ways of being in the world, cut it all off. And so, of course, the ahankara is afraid because the ahankara wanted to live and live as a small, finite, limited being. That's what. And then keep on crying all the time. And so, Bhagavan took away that finitude. Aham matihi mrityum upaiti purvam. This has been wrongly translated. The second line, there is a small caveat. It has been wrongly translated as what? As something which is, what is that called? As ahankara nashaha. Nasha means death. Death of the ahankara. We are not talking of the death of the ahankara. Even if we are talking of the death of the ahankara, it is more mentioned in a proverbial way, not really. Because if the ahankara, which is the I notion, dies, then who is the one who is ignorant? Really? Who claims the ignorance? There is nobody to claim the ignorance. Oh, that's good. Well, then how will you go for knowledge? If you don't claim the ignorance, you can't go for the knowledge. So where is Guru Prapti? Where is, where is knowledge? Where is Upanishad? Where is Shastra? Nothing happens. So the ahankara gone means one is practically in a permanently vegetative state. Naturally, because if you look at a person who is, not responding to things, then obviously that ahankara is not able to be there in a manner that makes them worthy of interacting with the universe. So then there is no capacity to study, there is no capacity to learn, there is no capacity to drop wrong identifications. Wrong identifications have to drop. That is the idea. And so who is going to drop the wrong identification? I am going to drop the wrong identification. So that I still remains after the wrong identifications are dropped. The I which is now connected to the right identification remains. That's why the Jnani is able to say, I am Satchidananda Atma. Correct? So the ahankara nasha here has to be understood in a proverbial way, not in a literal way. Because if you understand it literally, then you are stuck with this feeling. What is that feeling? I have to get rid of the ego, I have to get rid of the ego. Then what? Then who is the one who is getting rid of the ego? The ego. How can the ego get rid of the ego? We are having again the same problem that we were discussing yesterday, subject object contradiction. So it's more like to be on the right side of this, right understanding of this. We have to see this more as an ahankara that is dropping its wrong identification with the body, with the prana, with the mind, with the koshas, etc., 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 etc. This is how we have to look at it. Otherwise, we are in trouble. Because if the ahankara goes away, then you are asleep. Because in sleep there is no ahankara. And why should the teacher teach you when you are asleep? There is no reason to teach. And even if the teacher should teach you while you are asleep, there is no assimilation happening. So the ahankara here is lightened of its burden of feeling involved and misidentified with the body, mind, sense complex. That is the idea here, not anything else. So ahankara nasha, and the Shruti will use such words, mano nasha, ahankara nasha. This is how mano nasha also same thing. So the mind is not destroyed. If the mind is destroyed, it is not a vehicle for moksha. You need to be thinking, you need to be doing certain things in order to study. You need to be analyzing, you need to have viveka, you need to be discriminating. And so therefore, it is not mano nasha literally. We have to take it in this particular manner. That's why there is no need for any kind of posturing. What kind of a posturing will it be? It's like sometimes in spiritual circles, you ask some Swami in certain lineages. You ask some Swamiji, when did you come? And the Swamiji will answer, this came yesterday. So, have you had your lunch? This hasn't eaten yet. When are you going to leave? This is planning to leave day after tomorrow. So, and this is a very extreme way of disidentification, perhaps as a practice, and it's okay, but one need not go to that extent. The I is sublated. So even though the person may be saying, the jnani may be saying, I did, I ate, I drank, I came, I went, I teach, I write, I sleep, all these things, still it is the words as though our catchphrase is very much there in the mind. So cognitively, the ahankara is dissociated or taken away from the wrong identifications with the body, mind, sense complex, and one's possessions, relationships, etc. And the ahankara, the I notion, is walked to Sat, Chit, Ananda as the definition of this I. So when that definition of oneself as Sat, Chit, Ananda is extremely grounded, and one is established in that identification, then you can say, I went, I saw, I ate, all these things without really that I being a literal agent of action or a recipient of action. Because the as thoughness is very, very, very clear. But for a samsari, the as thoughness is not clear. So therefore, two stages of evolution are recorded in the Shastra, which is brought about here very beautifully in this Mangala Charanam. And what are the two stages? The first stage is the stage of crafting oneself, cultivating an identity of a devotee. In fact, this identity is very closely associated with oneself. because one is already a devotee, because one is born related to everything, to mother, father, brother, sister. Above all, one is born related to Bhagavan, from which everything comes. So, this relationship, when one identifies as a devotee, first and foremost, this relationship becomes a primary relationship to maintain, and all other relationships are riding on this relationship. Otherwise, what happens if this relationship is not highlighted? Then every other role that one plays in life becomes a big burden. Oh, no, 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 it is terrible to be a son and a daughter. I can't handle it. Why do I have parents? Okay, and then what? It's terrible to be a spouse. I need space. And then it's terrible to be a mother and a father. I can't handle it. Too much responsibility. And so, like this, the problems connected to the roles become one's own problems. The problems connected to the role of son, daughter, father, mother, spouse, employer, employee, friend, etc. What happens to those problems roll on to the person, because the person is misidentified as just the role. The role is not outside of the person, please understand. But the person is free of the role. Just like if a person is playing, if an actor is playing the role of a beggar in a play. This is classic example of Pujya Swamiji's. So the actor who is highly paid and has a big mansion, a multi-million-dollar mansion somewhere. Where do they all live? Somewhere, what is that called? Hollywood, Beverly Hills. Yeah. So they are all in Hollywood. The fellow has a nice mansion, and for this particular movie has to cry, has to dress up in tatters and cry. I don't have anything. Please give me food. I'm hungry. I'm homeless. Help me. Kind sir, give me something to eat. Give me a place to lie down. This is what the person is crying. And the actor, even when he is crying, has got some inner space. And he's feeling good about, oh, I'm crying without the help of glycerin. Very nice. Maybe this movie will be nominated for Oscar. Maybe I'll get an award. Academy Award might be in the works, because I'm doing such a good thing, such a good role. I'm playing the role so well. Because he knows full well, when the role is done, when the shooting is done for that day, then he can throw off the makeup, throw off the tattered clothes, and go to his house and then just lounge and be with his family, etc. He knows very well. And he can just sort of, relax. He is home. And then he doesn't spend sleepless nights thinking, I haven't read the next script for tomorrow. What happens to the beggar? Poor thing, today he was in such dire straits. What will happen to him tomorrow? That thought doesn't even cross. In fact, the script was available, but he didn't have the time nor the interest to read it, because, he can read it the next day. He's very skilled and he can read it the next day, and then it'll be done. But this is exactly the space. This kind of an inner space is needed between the person and the role. If the person knows who he or she is, that the person is nothing but Satchidananda, then there is no problem at all. No problem. Then you can play as many roles as you want and not get affected by the role at all. Like Lord Krishna, even though he did so many things, he said, I didn't do any of them. And it started small. Maya main nahi makhan khayo. It started as soon as he could speak. Oh mom, I didn't eat the butter. Who ate the butter? Your face is full of butter, your hands are butter, and you're leaving buttery footprints everywhere. The whole of you is butter. Mother is livid. She said, "You're giving me a bad reputation in the whole community. I can't even go out. Everybody tells me my child, who is not even 2 years old, is a thief. What's wrong with you?" And then he has a nice little excuse. What does he say? All the neighborhood bullies, those big children, they ate the butter. I did not eat the butter. Then why are you full of butter? They framed me. They applied some butter on the mouth and the hands and the feet, and then they just left me there. See how cute I am. See how innocent I am. How could I have eaten the butter? and just to test, she says, okay, let me see if there is butter in your mouth. What are you hiding? Open your mouth. Okay, really? You're sure? Yeah, open your mouth. And she sees the whole entire galaxies, everything. What all the Hubble telescope sees, she saw that in this baby Lord's mouth. And then she said, never mind, close the mouth quickly. And so, this is the thing. I am not the doer. This is what is all illustrated in Lord Krishna's life. And if we don't understand this, then people make the wrong, conclusion. Oh, Hindus worship a god that likes to lie. That's who is a liar. Not a liar here. We have to understand it. Not a liar. An outlier perhaps, but not a liar. Yeah. There is no kartritva. This is what it is. There is no agency. And that is what it illustrates. It's really very, very profound. And so just like the actor in the beggar story, if we can revisit that now, we see something which is very interesting. The beggar has no being. Where is the beggar? In fact, the body of the beggar is what? Nothing but the body of the actor. The mind of the beggar again is the mind of the actor. The actions of the beggar, actions of the actor, really. So the whole beggar is dependent upon the actor. But the actor is independent of the beggar. This is what is the truth. This is what is the understanding. This is what one has to, this is the phala of this jnana. So now what? Now we have to do one more thing here, because if one is a jnani and if one has this understanding, well and good, nothing more to be said. Nothing more to be said at all. Now, if one doesn't know this, then the conflation between the person and the role comes at a very costly price, at the cost of one's own peace of mind, at the cost of one's own sanity. This is what comes. The conflation between the person and the role is a very, very difficult place to be. It is in fact a manifestation of samsara. During the course of the day, the person fulfills so many roles. The problems connected to the roles are not affecting the person. One time I went to Bhiksha in somebody's house with the Guru, and then the man of the household was not at home. He was a police officer in a nearby precinct. And the wife and the kids said, he will come home shortly. And the man came as soon as the car or whatever vehicle dropped him off in the driveway. As soon as the children heard the car, they quickly went off and hid in their rooms. And the wife, who had been talking to us very freely, suddenly froze. And it was very clear why. The man came in, and then he was very happy to see Swamiji, and greeted him. He was very happy and everything was going well. And then suddenly there was, he took his whistle from his pocket and blew the whistle to indicate that it was meal time. That lunch, it was lunch time and all the lunch should be served. And then as soon as she heard the whistle, she kind of jumped out of the chair, and the children came very warily afraid. Father is here, father is whistling, he's blowing the police whistle. Oh no, what's going to happen? And then, and Swamiji meanwhile said to him, go wash up, take off your uniform. No, Swamiji, I like my uniform. I don't need to take off my uniform. And then, and then after the meal was over, and he had some time alone with Swamiji, he was sitting there, he said, I don't know why I have so much stress at work. And then at home also I have so much stress. Not many people like me at work. He was an honest man. And not many people like me at home. Also my own children are afraid of me. Why? And Swamiji said, because they just see the policemen, they don't see their father. They don't see their father. You're stuck in this role, and then this is the role, whatever it is. No, but it's just convenient to blow the whistle to say it is meal time. So that's why I told you to take off the uniform and change into something comfortable. And then he understood. And so this kind of what is that called? The obfuscation between the role and the person is the very definition of samsara. That is what is the problem. If one is a husband, one is stuck in the role of the husband, and there is all stress and fear and not being understood and all these things. If one is a wife, one is stuck in the role of the wife, one is stuck in the role of a friend, in the role of a mother, father, etc. One is stuck. And so the way to unstuck, to become unstuck, is to have that inner space. Beggar is the actor, but actor is not a beggar. Role is the person, person is not the role. This doesn't come easily because this is contingent upon studying Vedanta. The study of Vedanta is what is needed. But as one is gaining this knowledge slowly, one can help oneself by giving oneself, by recognizing oneself as a devotee. The role of the devotee is a very primal role, because the first connection is that with the maker, with the creator, and with the Ishvara. That is what it is. So the bhakta, the sooner one meets oneself, one sees in oneself, one identifies oneself as a bhakta, the better it is for self-growth, for emotional growth. Then as a devotee, then the devotee can say, I am a devotee son, I am a devotee daughter. First devotee, then son. First devotee, then daughter. I am a devotee spouse. And then devotee mother, devotee father, devotee friend. Then that inner space is there for one to do that. That is when there is no fear. Na bibheti kadachana iti. Why? Because I am under the umbrella of Bhagavan. Totally under the umbrella of Bhagavan, and because I am under the umbrella of Bhagavan, there is no fear. Like a child being embraced by the mother or the father is totally unafraid. So that is step number 1. Step number 2 is gaining this knowledge, and therefore there is no fear because there is no other. The other is what causes fear. Since there is no other, there is no fear. And both these are talked about in this verse, a very beautiful verse of prayer. Again, it is nicely, it's got some irony in it, just like the first verse. Let us look at that. So, Mrityunjayam. So, Mrityunjayam means this this Mrityunjaya, the Lord Shiva, who is victorious over death. And then the one who is Ashritanam, the one who is who is surrendered to, by who? Mrityubhiya, by the people who have fear of death. So Mrityubhiya Ashritanam. And then what happens? Surprise! So these samsaris went to the feet of Bhagavan and said, please save me from death. And Bhagavan axed with the axe of Asanga Shastra, a phrase from the Bhagavad Gita. Which chapter? 15th chapter. 15th chapter. Asanga Shastrena Dridhena Chitva. So with the Shastra, with the scythe, with the sickle of Asanga. Asanga means what? Uninvolvedness, that you are uninvolved with anything else, including your roles. So that is that with that scythe, all the objects of passion, all the pains, all the sorrows, everything was totally taken away, totally eliminated. And that is basically what is talked about as Asanga Shastra here. Asanga Shastrena Dridhena Chitva. So here the same thing. The Bhakta, the one who has crafted oneself, minted oneself as a devotee, goes to the Lord only to have what? The Aham Matihi. Aham Matihi means I am finite iti matihi. I am finite, this kind. Mati means buddhi. So I am finite buddhi, orientation. I am finite, I am as good as the body. Oh no, I am sick. Oh no, I am about to die. Oh no, I have all these problems. This is the one. And all those notions riding on the ahankara, the ignorant ahankara, those notions are killed off. So the first thing to die for the people who are afraid of death is this finitude as soon as they approach the Lord. Why? Because the Lord Shiva here is depicted as extremely compassionate and wanting to give the devotee whatever they ask for. Because Lord Shiva is very obliging. In fact, gets into scrapes, and Lord Vishnu has to help him and get him out of these scrapes. Lord Shiva is seen as extremely benevolent and gives anything, whatever people ask, gives. And here, oh Lord, I'm afraid, take away the fear. Lord doesn't think, okay, stage number 1 or stage number 2. No, it's all just one. So, let's give this person the best of whatever there is. And so, removes the ahankara clinging to the finitude, removes that clinging, and thereby removes the fear. So, aham matihi mrityum upaiti. Upaiti means gains. Goes towards Purvam. So first, the I notion that is identified wrongly with the body mind sense complex, first is the first casualty that dies, that has to die. Why? Because if that doesn't die, then there is no, there'll always be some kind of a fear of endings, etc., etc. There is no respite. It has to die. And so therefore, after that dies, then the second stage comes. But first we have to also say one more thing. We have to say that, we have to see this aham mati as one more, in one more way. Because here Ramana talks about something which is very, very wonderful. Aham matihi means the identification with the devotee. That also has to die. even though that gives people a heart attack if I talk like this, you know. Oh, but which temple will I go to? Whose feet will I catch hold of? Oh no, how can how can the devotee die? In fact, you spent first half of the class talking about the devotee and how important it is to construct the devotee. Yes, that's why I left the other half of the class to dismantle this notion. Same thing. This is Vedanta. The whole thing is a paradox. You set it up and then you take it down. You set it up and then you take it down. This is so wonderful. It's like the Buddhist mandalas. You know, they take 48 days to draw an elaborate mandala. Oh, it's so beautiful, so many different colors. Mandala is like a big rangoli. And then, and they'll do some chanting, sit around it and do some puja, some chanting. And then they'll come with little brushes and little dustpans and they will just mop it all up, sweep it all up. And this is, this is a very interesting exercise here. And in that exercise, the doership is gone. Oh, I spent so much time doing this. I am the doer is gone. It is resolved because it has finished its thing. Same thing in Vedanta. An elaborate setup is made. Only in the end, after its function is finished, it is dismantled. So whether you look at karma is a model for the one who wants to gain this knowledge. And then that person is talked of as karma yogi, and that person is told to practice service and without really having strong prejudices and preferences. And then that person is told, you are accountable for what you do. There is such a thing called karma. It bites back. You better be careful how you tread. You have to live a life of righteousness, dharma. And then after that what? Tatra ko vidhihi ko nishedha. This is the refrain in the Shukashtakam. Shukashtakam is what is that? Lauding, a praise song for Lord Shuka, the son of Vyasa, who was believed to have been born enlightened. And as a 5-year-old boy left his home. And this Shuka, and the chorus of each word, each stanza in the poem is, what is that? Is tatra ko vidhihi ko nishedha. So for the person of this knowledge of oneness, where are the injunctions and where are the prohibitions? Meaning, there are no injunctions and no prohibitions, no accountability, because one is not an actor. In order to understand one as a non-actor, one has to first understand how to act in a responsible manner. One more paradox of Vedanta. In order to drop even the notion I am a devotee, first one has to perfect devotion. Without perfecting the devotion, the devotee cannot be dropped. And sometimes after perfecting the devotion, it is very hard to drop the devotee. Because one has taken a long time to craft this notion of the devotee. And then what happens? Oh, no, I have to do puja. I have to do this. I have to do that. Who will feed the gods? Don't worry. You are not feeding them. They are in fact taking care of you. No. I have my responsibilities. I have to do this. Forgot to do arati. Wrong things will come. So this is, one gets into a complacent niche of comfort, and this last frontier of duality between oneself and Bhagavan has to be dismantled for Vedanta to flourish. Otherwise there is no Vedanta. There is no Advaita at all if one is stuck in the role of the devotee. And stuck one can easily become. And one does frequently become. And this is what is talked about, is that if the devotion is true, seek the help from Bhagavan to give up the giver-upper. To allow this devotee to resolve. to allow the devotee to resolve. Sometimes, people have a relationship in India with some idols which represent a certain way of looking at Bhagavan, or with a photograph, a pictorial depiction of Bhagavan. Let's say they move, or they feel like they have outgrown this particular kind of worship. So there is a very beautiful way to let go of it. So you worship that photograph, you worship Bhagavan in the form of that photograph, or you worship Bhagavan in the form of that particular icon, and you take it to a river and you just do Visarjanam, you just let it go and say that this form of worship I am going to give up. This is what the thing is. And this is a very advanced stage of one's growth, really. It doesn't come easily in the beginning. In fact, people after taking sannyasa also, they still get very attached to pujas, yajnas, and even shraddha. Shraddha means the funerary rites. All that is done. The last puja is done, the last yajna is done, and in the sannyasa ritual, one is told that yes, you may participate in many pujas, you may help, it is not for you anymore. It is for others. Whether you are participating in a fire ritual or a form of worship, it is for the good of others, not for you. Not for you at all. And that has to be something that has to be understood properly. And sometimes people don't understand that at all. Pujya Swamiji, my teacher, would always tell this story. And the story was, one of the Swamis he had initiated from some other lineage, and that man had come for initiation, and he initiated him. And he said, okay, I think we can study a text now. How about tomorrow at 4 o'clock? And the Swami said, can't. I have to do shraddha for my parents, meaning I have to do the yearly funeral rites for my parents. And even though Swamiji told him that all that is done, it's gone, it's finished, he said, no, I'm too attached to it, I can't let it go. And that is the force of the injunctions. So this kind of a growth, you become a sublated devotee. You are still a devotee, but now you are a jignasu bhakta, a jnani bhakta. Jnani bhakta means you are a devotee who knows this, who knows the truth, and yet you are devoted, but not you don't have that attachment to worshipping in a certain way, or seeing yourself as helpless and seeing Bhagavan as the Savior. You don't have that attachment. There is no Savior in the Vedantic tradition, in the Vedic tradition, because you are not bound. If you are not bound, why do you need to be saved? And this is a refrain that is going to come in I think the 7th or 8th verse. We will see this. You are not bound, so why do you need to be saved? You are not afflicted, so why do you need help? The only help that is needed perhaps is to recognize that you are everything. You are one with everything. To recognize this vision, perhaps the help of Guru is needed. But here it says that the kind Mrityunjaya, the most compassionate Lord Shiva, what did he do? He killed off the devotee. Killed off the devotee? No, the ahankara that was identifying as the devotee. The I notion that was firmly attached. The I notion is like Velcro, very clingy. Anything it catches on to, it will not let go. That is the ahankara. And so here the ahankara had glommed on, caught on, just stuck to this notion, I am a devotee. So the notion that one is a devotee, and between that and the ahankara, there was super glue. not just regular glue, super glue, gorilla glue, all kinds of glues are there. And so therefore this is so that the grace of the Lord's kind compassionate glance melted that super glue, and suddenly the eye notion was free of seeing itself as just a devotee. Dasasya, 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 dasoham. I am the servant of your servant of your servant of your servant of your servant. And then where will that lead you? Where will that lead you? And that is basically what the understanding is. And then so here the devotee, the notion I am a devotee is killed off. And then what happens? Atha, thereafter, swabhavat amriteshu teshu. Swabhavat amriteshu means among those who are by nature what? Amriteshu, they are amrita. By nature, those who are immortal. Katham punaha mrityudhiyaha avakashaha. So, after the devotee, the notion that I am a devotee is gone, what replaces that notion? I am Bhagavan. Because if I am not devotee, what I am? I am Bhagavan. Yeah, please refrain from talking amongst yourself during the class, okay? Yeah, you can do that afterwards. Yeah, so please just listen. So, this is I am Bhagavan. The I am devotee, is replaced by I am Bhagavan. I am not separate from Bhagavan. I am non-separate from Bhagavan. I am one with Bhagavan. That iti matihi, that understanding comes, for which of course the ego is important. The ego is very important for that, because that ahankara alone has this. And then, so I am Bhagavan. And then atha swabhavat, so by nature I am what? Amritaha, immortal. So katham punaha, how indeed therefore, how indeed then, mrityu dhiyaha avakashaha. So where again can the avakasha means place, space. Where can there be a space for what? Where can there be a space for mrityudhiya? Mrityudhi. Mrityudhi means the notion I am finite. Where is the space for that? There is no space at all for the notion that I am finite. There is no space at all for this kind of a notion. And so therefore, this is a wonderful prayer. It's a prayer that is doing a headstand, because so beautiful, very interesting, and then it's a wonderful twist. Here you go to Bhagavan wanting to, being so afraid, and then Bhagavan takes away the fear by taking away that last frontier of duality, even the part where you think you are, you are separate from Bhagavan. You are the devotee. So then, after this kind of a exercise is accomplished, then what happens? Then there is, what is left is all that is immortal, all that is one, that one immortal. Immortal means never ending, limitless Sat, which is sentient, which is consciousness, alone is left. And where is the place for death? Death cannot touch it, because finitude cannot touch it, and fear cannot touch it, because fear means fear of something other than itself. When there is nothing other than itself, there can be no death, no ending, no finitude, no sorrow, no fear. So, in other words, the Maharshi is telling us that the fear, the supplication to Bhagavan, the surrender to Bhagavan, the best form of surrender is the surrender of the fear. So that when you surrender the fear, all that is left is the limitless I which you are. So one graduates from Nabibheti Kadachana iti to Nabibheti Kutaschana iti. Nabibheti Kadachana iti, and there is no fear because I have a protector. First stage, second stage, and because I am a devotee, and then the second stage, I am that which is one with that who is supposedly the protector. The protector role drops, the devotee role drops, and all that is left is Satchidananda, which I am. So it's not just a prayer, it's a prayer which has fulfilled itself really, and it is a benediction that anybody who reads this text may they get to this place. It's a Ashirvachana, a benediction. Okay, so we'll stop here. The class will meet again on Monday at the same time, and there are some other weekend classes which you are welcome to join. I believe this week we have Mundakopanishad, we have Bodhasara, and we have Taittiriya Bhashya, not to mention Sanskrit. So lots of things will be there. All right, yeah. And then one more thing, we are trying to take care of the noise by some application. Today kind of it ran out in the middle of the class, and so that's why we were hearing some noise. Hopefully we'll fix it by the next class. Okay, all right. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.